I was standing in traffic the other day, and there's two. So I'm at the robot, and then there's a car there, and a car there, and this guy is supposed to go. He's supposed to go, but then this guy goes, and obviously he that has right of way is like, what? He's going on. And then the guy who transgressed, the guy coming this way, was just like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Like, and then it dawned on me that you can actually just act like you have lost your mind, and people will just let you go because they don't want to deal with that kind of crazy. When I saw that, I was like, I'm never going to forget this moment. Anyways, let's start the show. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the show. It has been a while, hasn't it? It's definitely been more than a year. The last time I actually did this was, I think, 2024 in December 2024. And yeah, I think 2025 has just been such an extremely intense year for me that I keep telling myself, oh, I'm gonna do it, and then I don't do it, and then I even tell myself I'm gonna buy studio lights, and when I do that, then that's when the show will kick off. And even after that, it didn't happen. And for me, that's a teaching moment. I learned something. I learned that actually what you think your obstacles are is not your obstacles, and it's possible that you are your only obstacle. And I'm not trying to be philosophical or deep or anything. That's not the nature of the show. Or maybe it is. I don't know what the nature of the show is, but that's what I like about it. And that's why it's called All Over the Show, because you're just here to watch or listen if you're listening. If you're listening, I'm wearing a red bikini. Anyways, so maybe you can go to YouTube and watch it if you want to see that. If you want to see that, you sicko. Anyways, don't call your listeners sicko. But you know what? I also think when you listen to advice, you know what, dude? You don't have to follow the advice. That's the cool thing about advice. You probably should, because if somebody's giving you advice, perhaps you should listen to it. Unless it's, the case of voluntary advice where you didn't ask for advice, but people are like, hey, here's my advice. And you're like, oh, thank you. It's basically the same as giving somebody, I don't know, giving like, I'm not thirsty, please give me water. It's like, oh, you're not thirsty, here's some water, sir. Oh, you've just eaten, here's some more food. I'm offering this to you. You're like, I don't need it, but take it, man. That's what advice is like to me. Unsolicited advice, that's what they call it. There's always a fancy term for stuff. Have you noticed that? And have you noticed that the most the most awkward times, you see it in church a lot actually, is when someone is using like the most, the deepest English words, to deliver a sermon. And a sermon is like, essentially, you're supposed to be able to bring this message across so that everybody understands it, right? And if you do that with all the, the highest English words in the dictionary, you're gonna lose people, man. Because even native English speakers are gonna be like, what does that word even mean? And I mean, some people struggle to read the Bible, which makes sense. If you read like King James Version or the New King James Version, it doesn't really, there's a lot of extra words in there. There's a lot of language that's a bit old-timey and not, it's just not, you can't really, it doesn't fall too well on the ear, But what was I talking about? Oh, so now people like to preach and give speeches with the most intense language, and I don't know, with all due respect, I think those people are, I don't want to say idiots, but whatever you are, if you're the kind of person that is attempting to communicate something in the least effective way possible, because that's exactly what happens when you start throwing up words that not everybody understands. Communication has the goal of being understood. That's maybe the primary goal of conversation. Not conversation, communication. But yeah, anyways, I tend to go off on a tangent. But a tangent from what? That's the nature of this show. We just start somewhere and we end somewhere, and whatever happens in the middle is the show. And so we're back. I'm back. I want to say we're back, but who else is there? It's just me. It's just me. I like to pretend that there's maybe a producer yeah. And it would be cool to have one, and that's gonna happen at some point. So I told you already before, if you're a listener from 2024, which is yeah, wow, thank you for coming back. And I'm sorry for deserting you for a year, but I'm sure you didn't miss me. You don't need to miss me, and that's also perfectly fine, but but yeah, I said I was gonna get I was gonna improve the equipment around the podcast and all that. So yeah. It also has been weird. I'll be honest, it's been so weird to say that, to tell people I have a podcast when I'm not actually actively, recording episodes and putting them online. Is literally, yeah, it was just, and I think also life has just been hectic, and I hate using that. As because it sounds like an excuse, and it is an excuse, But I only have myself to blame. I think I took on too many things, with the, you could call it arrogance even. I took on too many things with the arrogant idea that I would be able to handle it all, plus the stuff I'm already doing. And you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be realistic. It's just not happening. It's just not going to happen like that. You need to be fair as well. You cannot just be blindly arrogant, and because then all that happens is you do yourself a disservice. This thing is pinching me. I wonder if I should take it off. It's not good if you have hair on your body. It like pulls and then it itches or burns or whatever. I don't know what the sensation even is. What is the sensation when you have a tiny hair pulled out? It's not pain because it's not sore. It's not like a prick of a needle or like a cut. It's, I don't know. It's maybe a little pinch. It's very distracting. Something else that might be distracting for you. Maybe you're listening and be like, what is in the background right now? Oh, sorry. Maybe I should not drink a branded bottle on YouTube and get in trouble. Oh, he's selling thirsty, but I'm not selling it and then thirsty. Not thirsty. He's selling a brand and whatever, and I'm not. Anyways, so you might be listening and be like, oh, the background noise. Like, sorry, you know what? It's fine. My windows are open. I live in a city. The streets are busy. People are driving. Uber Eats is delivering because people are hungry, And why shouldn't they be hungry? If you've been working all day, or been watching Netflix all day, or been scrolling through Instagram all day, or been scrolling through YouTube all day, or been watching TikTok all day, or been at work all day, whatever you've been doing all day, maybe you want to eat. And you can order Uber Eats, and then they're going to drive past you, and then that's what's going to happen. And that's also okay. I'm not going to stress about it anymore. I used to, in the past, I would be in this room, and it is my bedroom, fully my bedroom. I sleep here, okay? And I would close the windows. I have this window above my bedroom door as well. I close that so that there's no noise, no distraction, no background, what. And maybe, in the podcast world, it's in bad taste to have any background noise. But you know what? I don't care. I honestly don't care. This pursuit of perfection is ridiculous. I can't do it anymore. I just wanna be able to do stuff freely. And you know what? If it bothers you that much, man, maybe you're not part of my audience. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't like it, go watch a quiet podcast or whatever. I'm sure you have better things to do than listen to me, but if you are watching, fantastic. Thank you and welcome. And whoever you are, I have a friend and colleague who likes to say thank you for you. He likes to thank people for them, for who and what they are, for what role they play, and I like that very much. To thank someone for them, it's like, yeah, I like that. He says it a lot to people, and that's like a nice, it always puts a smile on people's face. So I like that. Shout out Sean. One day Sean, you'll meet Sean will be on the show. I really would love to. There's so many people, like almost everyone in my life is someone that I feel like I can have a proper conversation with on this show, for many reasons. Some for personal reasons. Some people have very interesting stories to tell. Some people I just like having conversations with because, I go on a tangent, they go on a tangent, and then we just riding tangents until the end, and that's the style. That's basically the style of this podcast. Because I've also been thinking about that a lot, and this is also why I'm like, you know what? Forget about being perfect. Forget about trying to make a perfect show. I don't think, even if I had everything necessary to make quote unquote the perfect show, that's not me, man. I'm not a perfect person. I don't want things to be perfect, I want them to be meaningful, I want them to be interesting, and if you find me interesting, that's bizarre, okay? You're very strange, If you're watching like, oh, I want to watch this, like, then you're part of my tribe, actually, because I'm a strange person. I'm not strange, but I think peculiar. And I like peculiar people. And I think more often than not, when you actually give someone a chance, they will show you how weird they are. And the more weird someone is to you, in a good way, not in a creepy, weirdo kind of way, but like you're weird, in that way. Sorry, one of my lights just went like, ooh, I'm sad. Anyways, so what was I saying now? What was I saying? Oh, yeah. If you are new to the show as well, this happens often where I sort of get distracted by something and then I completely lose my train of thought. And in the process of rambling, I try to find my way again, and it never actually happens. But it's okay, I think it's sometimes enjoyable, and it is a fun process. If you ever get a chance, do it. Just to talk recklessly, man. Just to say not what's on your mind, but just to let your mouth communicate what your mind is thinking without the fear of judgment, without the fear of what is it called? Ostracized. But what is it? What is the term for when you get ostracized? Ostracism? It's not ostracism. I wish I had my phone right now so I can Google it, but the phone is recording. What is it to ostracize? What is is it the noun? What do you call it when you ostracize somebody? I don't know. I don't even know how I got to such a word as ostracize. And that's actually part of the original point, if you've been paying attention, of using big words. And you don't know how to use them properly, and you don't fully understand them in context, and then you confuse yourself and others. So now people are just in church being like, huh? I'm pretty sure if you're a preacher, you don't want people to feel that way. Or if you're a teacher, or if you're like a public speaker or a lawyer, you do any job that involves talking, man. You know. And yeah, so it's been a bit of an interesting year for me, upon reflection. And sometimes I do get to reflect a little bit. 2025 was so what have you missed? Let me catch you up. You know what? I haven't actually kept track of when I started. So I'll just end when I end, I guess. I really don't know what time I started. Okay, anyways. What was I saying? Oh, I was gonna catch you up on my year. So in December of 2024, I've never done this before where I try to look in such detail at the year that has passed. But okay, in 2024 December, I left Bloemfontein, which is where I live, for holiday. I just went to go visit my dad. My siblings and we went to go visit my father. He lives quite far away. It's a military base, about halfway between Postmasburg and Katu. Somewhere there. Yeah, it's called Luatla. And it's what is it? It's a combat training center. That's where they train soldiers and whatnot. I wonder, is that classified information? It should be, right? It's not classified. I've Googled it before. I've Googled the location of this base. Okay, so it's not classified information. I thought, did I just give away sensitive information? Am I a traitor to my country? But, nobody really cares about that here in South Africa. Because we're not like that. We don't have like military level beef with other countries. We're just fighting wars in other countries, but it's not like a war. It's not like this versus that. It's peacekeeping missions, using guns, which is also not peaceful. Okay, well, I suppose you need guns to keep the peace. That's nogal interesting. So yeah, don't let it distract you that there are cars going past, You could play a game with yourself to be like, I wonder what car that is, what engine is that? And it's fascinating, there are people who can hear the sound of a car going past and know, oh, that's a 2014 Toyota Yaris. And you're like, how the hell did you know that? But yeah, we went to go visit my dad in 2024 at the end of the year. Very nice to be there. It's very quiet. It's pretty remote. So what's awesome is the stars, man. That's one of my favorite things about being there, is just how starry the stars get. There's almost no light pollution, so you see like a real, significant view when you look up at the night sky. It's absolutely incredible. It's not like that. It's not on such a scale that you see in like, videos and pictures where it's like, wow, is that the night sky without lights? It's not that intense because obviously there's still some light around, but it is secluded enough to be like pretty significant, Oh, sorry. Part of what I decided to do with the show is to do it at night, because I have now these 2 studio lights, so it's fantastic to actually do the show at night. And the reason why I do the show at night now is because things are just too hectic in the day, but I'll get to that. Anyways, so as I was saying, so we had a nice time there by my dad, spending I guess it was Christmas/New Year's there. We spent some time, not Christmas, but definitely after Christmas we went there. Or was it before Christmas? I'm not sure. It was a long time ago, okay? You try and remember that far back. Such minute details. And they were using big words again. Bad move. Anyways, then we came back to Bloem, and that time I had started a new job. I was already kind of working, in a musical capacity in this job, but it had become a bit more formalized, and it became a bit more detailed in terms of what I'm supposed to do, and that resulted in me working full time. So now it's like, okay, I am at work from beginning to end of the day, and then I come home, and then I've got various responsibilities, which I'm not complaining about, of course. I think responsibilities are part of what makes life meaningful. You know that about me, because if you're unless you're new to the show, that's something you should know about me, is that I believe that responsibilities are part of what makes life meaningful. And a life without responsibility would be I guess maybe a bit empty, maybe a bit self-indulgent, But anyway, so as I was saying, then started a new job, great job, cool job, love working there. I still work there. And then I guess I turned up the heat a little bit more because, as you know, I auditioned to study at university, to study music, which has been my number one passion and interest ever since I can remember. Music has been just my obsession. I'm still obsessed with music, and it will never end, and I love it, and if you think about it, being a musician, being actually anything that you do, like, think about this. It's actually pretty crazy. Imagine if there was something that you did every day for hours that produced results you only see much, much later on. And not only do you do it for hours, but you so focused on the smallest details to try and fix it, to try and get the sound that you want. That's what being a musician is, That's what being, I don't want to say a proper musician, but that's what being let's say a serious musician. That's what being a serious musician means. And whether you're a painter, or whether you're a dancer, or whether you're a writer, you're gonna spend hours and hours and hours developing that, And that's been my obsession. And it is obsessive behavior. It's actually weird. If I were doing anything else in that way, it would be considered very strange and very, you'd have to call the police on me. Sorry, I've got hiccups for some reason. I used to be so scared to drink water on the show. I would literally sit and choke just so that it doesn't look what I think looks weird. But it's not weird, it's normal. It's normal to drink water. It's normal to hear motorbikes outside. It's normal to hear your family go to the bathroom or wash the dishes. Speaking of which, I need to do the dishes tonight. So once I wrap this up, I'm gonna bounce. But I'm not wrapping up anytime soon. So buckle up. So then I started a job in January. Great stuff. Took up a whole chunk of time. And then my studies began in February. And I wonder why people say February. It's February. 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 Yeah, anyway, so in February. Sorry, that must be annoying, ne? Especially for the listeners. February. Anyways, February. That was also one thing that I kind of really used to be so concerned with, when doing the show. I would really try to say things correctly, but I don't. We all misspeak, man. I feel like perfection is overrated. Not perfection, but trying to do things perfectly, trying to do everything the right way. What even is the right way? There's just the way. There's just a way. There's my way. There's the way that I do things that works for me, that I'm comfortable with. And I think that's That's what should matter. As much as you want to produce quality for your audience, of course. But yeah, I think to be obsessed with the quality and not actually the delivery, that's a problem. But anyways, so I started studying music, and that was the start of a whole new adventure in my life. I've had jobs before, um, but this time I'm studying, so I am taking the role of a student now, and I'm coming into contact with people whose job it is to whip you up into shape to be a better musician, to be a better scholar as well, and you have to. And I think that's, and what I also think is like, I think I've had a significant advantage in doing my studies, right? Because my classmates were all at least I guess at most 10 years younger than me. And so I was basically 10 years older than most of my classmates. And this is the first time they are in a tertiary situation. They are adapting to student life. They are adapting to the kind of deadlines and the pace that these things come at you, and they really do. It is rigorous. And I like that. I have to say, but I like it now. I have to be sympathetic to my fellow students, because when I did my first qualification, when I first went to go study, that was brutal, and I hated it. And it's like you just got out of you just matriculated. You had some intense study time, extra classes every weekend, and not every day, but like every weekend, almost every weekend, almost every afternoon, you are in class, and then you get home and it's homework and you have to study and all that stuff. And then you get to university and you realize, oh, that was nothing. Yeah, the deadlines just pile up and pile up and pile up, And that time I was not coping, dude. I was not coping at all. To the point where I failed. I literally failed, But I didn't give up. I didn't stop just because you failed. You shouldn't stop just because you fail. But then, when fast forward 10 years later, and I'm studying music now, you have a whole different perspective, because you're like, I've done this before, and you get to be in this cool position where you basically get to correct. Oh my God, sorry. It is night and I'm tired. I wake up pretty early in the morning. Anyways, so you're in a position where you get to sort of correct all the mistakes you've made in the past, not documenting when due dates are, not, scheduling, not managing your time, not keeping track of your marks. That's super important, because sometimes people make mistakes, and then you have to go to whichever administrator and be like, ma'am, sir, doctor, professor, there's some mistakes here in my marks. I need you to help me to fix that. If you do that early enough, it gets fixed. But if you wait for you to completely fall out of the bus, then no one can help you. And I've been there. I've fallen out of the bus, and all I can say, I guess it's just nice for me. It's nice to be on the other end, to be the student who's able to take advantage of every opportunity, and it's really all grace, man. It's really all grace. But yeah, I don't want to get now too deep on that. Maybe I can go deep on it. I think, the grace of God, these things have been possible by the grace of God. That's all I can say, because it happened. I mean, let me tell you. So I was like, okay, I'm working. I'm going to be able to pay for my own studies. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt to pay for my studies, because it's going to take most of what I'm making, or it's going to take a significant portion of my income. And what ended up happening then was a few of my lecturers got together and approached a trust that paid for my studies, you know? And you cannot imagine the feeling of blessing and of thankfulness that you feel, because you literally like, I prayed that I get some help. And then sure enough, you actually get some help. You know, that's grace, man. So yeah, I don't know. You can't tell me that prayer doesn't work. You can't tell me that there isn't someone up there looking out for you and taking care of you because he loves you. You can't say that, because that is real. That's real. You know, I mean, just today, I heard a crazy story. Honestly, it's the kind of story that would be unbelievable unless I've seen for myself how these things happen. A friend of mine has a brother who's diagnosed with cancer, like a very advanced stage of cancer. And then he told his brother, I'm going to pray. Come, let's pray. Let's pray. So everyone's praying, and obviously, you know, it's a lot of people's prayers as well. Not at the same time, of course, but your whole family is praying. Everyone who knows you is praying that you're going to be okay. And then they do some tests later on, and then they'll be like, the cancer that we thought was there is no longer there. And of course, doctors, being the scientists that they are like, yeah, you know, maybe there was a mistake in the testing phase or whatever, you know, which is possible, but what's also possible is that God took that cancer away, you know. And we don't know why God does these things. And the reason why I say this is not the first time this has happened is because there's a lot of instances, you know, maybe you don't know anyone that's been in such a circumstance, but I know of other people who have similar situation where cancer is like, yeah, it's end of the road, you know, it's like nothing can be done anymore. And yet that person ends up being, oh my God, sorry. That person ends up being free of cancer. That's crazy, you know. Then you're like, you tell yourself, nah, there has to be a God. There has to be, you know, an almighty, benevolent creator who's taking care of us all, you know. There has to be God. And I believe it is, you know. And I think, you know, people are very scared to talk about. Now I'm getting deep. Sorry. We're deep now. I hope you buckled up when I said buckle up. But I think people like to stay away from religious conversations, because I actually don't know why, to be honest. But I know that sometimes I feel weird talking about God, or talking about God's impact on my life, or talking about the kind of things that I'm talking about with you right now. Sometimes I feel weird about that, but actually we shouldn't, man. People also feel weird about talking about money, and I think we should be talking about money way more than we do. You know, it should at least be a part of normal conversation. It's so taboo to talk about money. People feel so uncomfortable, but that doesn't make sense to me, because if you have a way of making money that might be helpful to somebody else who can use those same techniques or principles or advice in their own way to also help them make money, it's like, why wouldn't you help them, you know? So let's talk about money, man. Let's talk more about that, you know. The only reason why it's such a taboo subject, actually I don't know why it's such a taboo subject, it just is for some reason. And I think that's part of the problem, man. There's so many people who are struggling financially, and because we don't talk about it, we're not sharing knowledge about money. We're not able to get to a point where money is as understandable as the human mind, or money is as understandable as, you know, eating healthy, you know, like or good mental health practices. It should be as big a conversation as that, and I think it's becoming that way. When you okay, I don't know about your social media, but when I sometimes scroll on social media, and it's not as often as what most people use social media, and I'm kind of glad for that. But I also feel like at the same time I am using it too much, and in my case, too much is like maybe an hour a day spread out over a few sessions. But yeah, then you get into that whole conversation of screen time and how bad that is for you. And I wonder, actually, there's a lot of research out there, but because I'm not a scientist, I'm not able to really understand what the results of such research can be. So I'd love to have an expert on the show talk about that, and I will be doing that soon. Yeah, I think if you are religious, pray for me, man. Pray that things go well, so that perhaps I can upgrade the show, and perhaps I can have a guest on, and I can have regular guests on. I think I'll still do solo shows, but it will be nice to also have a guest on, so now and then, so that I'm not the only one busy talking here. I'm sure it gets exhausting. I don't get tired of talking though, and maybe that's a problem. You hear that sometimes. You hear snide comments that people make about each other. They're like, oh, that one, he likes the sound of his own voice. He never stops talking, And maybe someone has said that about me, but at the end of the day, I also don't care, man. I've spent this year being so engaged and involved in, my professional life, in my life as a student, in my life as a care provider for my family, that you don't have time to consider, things as trivial as the opinions of others. It's like, and then you realize, oh, I'm actually free from people's opinions, because people's opinions are not going away necessarily, but whether I hear those opinions or I don't hear them, whether those opinions exist or not, is completely irrelevant, because it has no bearing on the way of things, And that's that whole stoic thing of there are things you can control, there are things you can't control, And you are just probably better off doing what's in your control. And if you do anything otherwise, I think you're probably just stressing about stuff that's not in your control, man. And stress is a good one, because yes, there's opinions that people might have that you are not in control of, and then there's also events that take place that you are not in control of. And then what happens is you stress yourself to death worrying about stuff that's not in your control, and then you end up not well. You're anxious, you're depressed, you're sad, you're exhausted, you're burnt out, because you're so concerned with something that's not in your control. So what is the point? Wouldn't you be better off not worrying about it? And I'm speaking to myself as much as I'm speaking to you, because we all do it, and it's so interesting. It's the same thing. Like obviously, I've tried to be like a practicing stoic in life, the same way I've tried to be. Not I've tried. It's so weird to talk in the past tense. I am trying to live my life as a stoic. I'm trying to live my life as a Christian, right? And you realize, when you choose a life that you consider to be better, you encounter what is for everybody else not a challenge, not an obstacle. You encounter these things as obstacles. People don't consider it an obstacle or something that stands in the way or something that you should probably avoid. People don't consider that you should avoid thinking about stuff that's not in your control, for example, or being wrapped up in whatever's going on with you, you know. There's a bigger world out there, and it's probably better to just focus on that, you know. Focus on the bigger picture, your bigger picture, or other people's bigger picture, as long as it's something that's in your control. I think that's maybe the central tenet of it. I don't know. For them, it's like, for the Stoics now, it's about living life according to nature, you know. But that's a very vague description of what it actually is. What it actually is, in my opinion, is just that life happens to everybody, and there are ways in which you can deal with the good and the bad without any unnecessary suffering. That's a big one, you know. There's a quote, I think it's Marcus Aurelius. He says, "Learn to be indifferent to that which makes no difference." You know, I like that, because it's like there are there are things that don't make a difference at all, and we fret about those things, you know. Or maybe even the act of being concerned about something is not going to change its outcome. So you might be better off just letting it go and not worrying about it. Maybe that's better, you know. But anyways, where was I? I was still telling you about my year, and we are approaching, soon. I still need to do the dishes, by the way. But anyway, so that's been, a bit of what I've been up to. That's all I can say. I feel like I'm ending already. I don't want to end, even though I have to do the dishes. But because this is so nice, man. It's been so long. We're back. How do they say? We're back, baby. Oh, but my throat is hurting right now. I just came back from a work function, actually. And yeah, it's nice. It's nice to connect. It's nice to connect with your colleagues in an environment that is not work, because work, everyone's focused on what they have to do. We have objectives, we have goals and plans and instructions and deadlines and all that. But when all of that is past, then we don't have to worry about that. Then you start seeing the real human, And today I had a very interesting conversation, and hopefully one day you'll meet him too. I won't reveal his name for the sake of privacy, but I had a very, very unforgettable conversation with him. And something he said, because I asked him a question. He knows a lot about a lot. So I asked him a question about people. And he basically broke it down. He says, don't look at people so that you get the professional, you get the person, and you get the employee, right? And you need to look at those three as three separate things, Obviously, that wasn't his point, but it was. He went to a deeper point, but I won't share that with you now. That's for me. That's for me and him. But that's exactly what it is, man. We place such judgment on people for the way that they behave in certain contexts, when actually, perhaps that's not the context that they want to behave in. You understand? If you find someone, and that's definitely Uber Eats, like you can hear that. You can hear that's a motorbike, I saw an Uber Eats guy that was, this guy must have, I don't know. I don't want to, I feel like I've told the story before, but I saw this guy and let's just say that motorbike was struggling, bro, because the motorbike was not strong enough to carry him, if you know what I mean. I'm just scared. I don't know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube, so I'm trying to keep it PC, but it's constantly evolving, so I don't know what the correct words are to use anymore. I feel like these lights are also a bit too bright, and so I'm like squinting. Am I squinting the whole time? I need to figure this whole lighting thing out. But yeah, it's always a learning curve, isn't it? That's also the cool thing, man. And I think the other thing about being a student is you realize how much value there is in taking up the role of a student, in that you are positioned to learn and not positioned to think you know everything. And I used to be when I was younger, man, I always thought I knew better. I always thought I knew more than everybody else. But once you let the ego go, no more ego. Ego is the enemy, that is a stoic principle. I don't know if it's a principle, but it's definitely something that the Stoics feel strongly about. They don't feel strongly about anything, or maybe they do, they just don't express it. Anyways, I don't know. I'm still learning about this. I don't know everything, okay? But the ego is really something you can do without. You can do without your ego, And yeah. Anyways, so okay. I'm just gonna reiterate something. If you are new to the show, you have to realize that I'm gonna go one moment we're talking deep stuff, the next moment I'm getting distracted, then the other moment I'm talking complete and utter nonsense, and that's okay. The reason why I do this is also to allow me to just speak recklessly, not too recklessly though, because I don't want to upset the people at YouTube. Then they take your thing down, even though I'm not making money from this. It's literally it's just for fun. I'm actually just doing this for fun. I really enjoy it. What else? Yeah, okay. I don't want to go too far into it, but yeah, I've had quite a year. Being a music student, performing on stage. That's one of my favorite things, by the way. I never really knew that about myself, but I really, really enjoy performing. I enjoy every part of it. And you would think that just because you enjoy performing, someone just got their Uber Eats. Just because you enjoy performing doesn't mean that you don't get nervous for a performance, doesn't mean that the stakes are not high, that if you make a mistake and this whole thing falls apart, it doesn't mean that possibility is zero. It's all still there, but that whole process, I absolutely love. That's something I learned about myself, and I always thought that I am someone who likes attention, and maybe I do. I don't know, it's not that I crave attention, so there's a difference there, but maybe I do like attention. I don't know, that's just part of my personality, I suppose. But I digress, man. I digress. What was I talking about? What was I talking to you about? I was saying that I lost my train of thought. Maybe doing it at night is not such a great idea. Maybe I should have a cup of coffee instead of drinking water. But water's good for you, man. I was saying about the ego. Yeah, the ego. So once you lose your ego, man, you take up such a cool position of being ready to learn. And you learn so easily when you're in an environment for teaching, And you even learn from people who are not teaching, because you're posed to learn. You're poised to learn, positioned to learn, whatever. And then you start learning from unexpected places. Maybe I'll dive into that next time, because we are sort of approaching an hour, I believe. I've got about 10 minutes, maybe more. But yeah, so that I did some student performances, and I really do enjoy them, man. Every student is supposed to. Apparently, you're not compelled to do performances in your first year, but I felt like I want to, as soon as the opportunity came, I went for it. And because I think also, like, it becomes a bigger thing the more you stay away from it. And actually, when you come into contact with something, you realize, oh, this is something that's tangible, it's understandable, it's approachable, it's doable, it's possible. And then it's completely demystified, and you can hear the activities of my family. Actually, it's weird that they are up this time of night, but okay. Man, sorry that I get distracted like this, but literally there's conversation happening, and I'm like, you ever try to listen to what people are saying? It's called eavesdropping, isn't it? Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, like I feel like I've just been in such a fortunate position, but it's also very tough, to be working and then studying full time, and then you get home and it's like, oh, I gotta do the dishes like I have to do now after this, or I have to make food, like I have to, sometimes I have to cook. Like we take turns here at home to cook, so sometimes it's your turn to cook, and you've maybe just had the worst day, and it's like, oh, I have to cook. Then you realize also a bit of sympathy is in order for, like back in the day, my mom used to come home every day and make food. And it's like, to make food every day, oh my word, what a task. And I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can do that ever. Like, but I think just, I don't like it. I don't enjoy cooking. I just don't think I've given it enough effort to really enjoy it, or to be good at it. It's definitely a skill I'd love to manage to, or a skill I'd love to master at some stage, But as it stands, I just want to master the piano, man. I just want to master conducting at some point. Choral and orchestral conducting. And they are two different things, but it's still the non-verbal communication with musicians. That's musicians and singers. That's just, for me, it's magic. Even playing the piano, there's this non-verbal communication that happens when you play a piece, because you're first of all connecting to the composer, but you're also connecting to the listener, and the listener is connecting to you, and you are connecting to the instrument, and the listener is also connecting to the instrument, and everyone's connected to the composer and what they wrote, but also to your interpret. Yeah, it just goes deep. Sorry, I'm not gonna go so far, but yeah. So yeah. What? I don't even know what this episode will be called. Will I even have a name for this episode? Maybe I will. I don't know. Or maybe I won't. I feel like episode 41. I don't know if it even has been that many episodes. But, yeah. But it feels good. It feels good to be back. This feels like, it feels like it's been like this monkey on my shoulder, or this, burden to carry of, you really need to get back to making episodes. You really need to get back to doing this, because, and that's me telling myself that. Because you like it, you enjoy it, and, and people are watching. People want to watch. So why not that? Or maybe no one's watching. And that's also fine. Imagine it's actually already that case. But imagine doing this and no one's watching. Yo! But even if that were the case, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't do anything differently, man. Let's just go. Whoever you are, whoever you're watching, thank you. Thank you for watching. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe or like this video. I think I need to deserve the subscribe. I need to deserve the like. And I only deserve it if you do it out of your own free will without me. You already do it out of your own free will, but what I mean is you are not compelled because I'm asking to. I'm not giving you the call to action, you know? And let me not do that, actually. Let me just say thank you for watching. Thank you for being all over the show with me. It's been a wild ride from the start to the end of this episode. And perhaps you can come away with this feeling like, what was that? Why did I just watch this whole thing? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because it wasn't in your control. It was in my control. But it wasn't your control to click on this video. It wasn't your control to keep watching or not to keep watching. That was 100% in your control. Unless someone tied you up and made you watch this. But why would they do that? Why would they do that? Why this? Yeah, I don't know. You'll have to ask them. Like, why did you make me watch this? You know? But yeah. Oh, I'm happy. This is good. This is good for the soul, you know? But now I'm tired. I gotta go do the dishes. Gotta talk to my girlfriend on the phone. That's super important as well. And then I'll do the dishes, and then tomorrow morning is another day. But thank you for being with me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're still listening, just go watch there on YouTube, because I literally changed my bikini. It was red and now it's purple, son. And I did it with my mind. So you have to go watch that. I wonder if I'll get sued for false advertising for saying stuff like that. But I'm not selling anything, so sue me if you like. I don't care. Maybe that's the title of the episode. I don't care. Maybe that can be the title. But maybe I do care. I don't know. We need a psychologist in here also. And what's cool is I'm also in the university now, so it's like I'm gonna be able to have access to a lot of different kinds of experts as well as students. You know, it'd be nice to talk to a psychology student. It'd be nice to talk to a psychology lecturer. It'd be nice to talk to my piano teacher, my organ teacher, my other lecturers of mine. Very interesting people, very interesting conversations that could be had, and everybody else that I consider to be interesting members of my day-to-day interactions, you know, because they'll be cool. Like it's another way of bringing you into my world by having you basically engage with, or you watching me engage with you know, my dad, my brothers, my sister, my friends, my girlfriend, why not, some colleagues, some friends, some really cool, interesting people, even people that I don't know or haven't met, and then you'll be able to see that conversation unfold, and you and me get to learn from an expert about something, you know, whatever they are willing to talk about. The future is brighter than these lights, but these lights are bright. I need to wear shades. Yeah, I should have done that, ne? Next time we do shades. All right, I'm out of here. Thank you very much for listening and watching. See you next week. Bye.